The movie begins with the protagonist, Surinder Sani, bringing home his newlywed wife. Suri is a young, ordinary man who works at an electric company. He has an ordinary life, living alone. He has nothing special going on, until he goes to a wedding that changes his life forever. Surinder has been invited by his old teacher, Mr. Gupta, to his daughter's wedding. Surinder goes to the wedding, and this is where he sees the love of his life for the first time. Her name is Tani. Suri falls in love with her the moment he sees her, with her bright smile and her happy laugh. Surinder's teacher tells him that it's a love marriage. That's the trend nowadays. Tani runs by them as they talk, but her father stops her. He introduces her to his favorite student. Tani is so excited and happy to meet him. She tells him her father always scolded her for not being like him because he was the perfect kid. She tells her that her father even wanted her to marry him. Suri talks to her nervously, and soon she runs off again to dance with her friends. Suri stands on the balcony, staring at her, knowing she is about to get married to someone else. He knows he will never be able to have her, but he can't help watching her. It's like he never saw a girl before. Before he can do anything else, Mr. Gupta runs to the middle of the floor where she is dancing and tells her something. Tani screams and runs out the door. As Suri watches, her father collapses, and all hell breaks loose as people carry him to the ambulance. Suri stops a guy and asks him what happened. The guy tells him that the groom and his family's bus had an accident. No one made it. Suri is devastated and goes to the hospital with Mr. Gupta. He sits there and prays for his health. Soon, the doctors come out and tell them they did everything they could. Now it's up to God. Mr. Gupta asks for Suri. He tells him he has little time left, and he doesn't want to leave his daughter alone in the midst of all this chaos. He asks Suri to marry his daughter, so he can die in peace, knowing he left her in good hands. Suri is deeply conflicted because this is what he desperately wants, but he doesn't want to take advantage of the situation. Nevertheless, he agrees, and Mr. Gupta puts his daughter's hand in his. Mr. Gupta passes away, and Suri attends his funeral, after which he marries Tani and brings her home. As he does the traditional ceremony before the new bride enters her new home, people stand around and talk, not expecting him to get married like this. He closes the door. Suri takes out all of his clothes from the cupboard and empties the room for Tani. He tells her he sleeps in the attic so that she can have this room. She just nods, and he tells her to call him if she needs anything. He goes up to the attic, which is a complete mess. He sets up his bed there and sleeps while Tani cries herself to sleep in her room. Surinder's friend Bobby comes knocking at his door in a fury at the fact he got married without telling him. Surinder invites him in and explains what has happened. Bobby gets tearful and tells his friend that he'll support him no matter what. He gives him a hug and leaves the house. Suri wakes up the next day and knocks on her door. When she doesn't answer, he leaves her breakfast with a note. He thinks of leaving a flower but quickly puts it back, not wanting to be imposing. He goes to the office and makes his calls while thinking about Tani at home. Suri's friends show up and tell him they know about his wedding. They loudly announce it to the whole office and demand a party at Suri's house. Suri tries to stop them, but he is unable to do so. He is worried that Tani will not like this. He goes home and knocks at her door again. He gently asks her to come out and meet his guests, but tells her she doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. With that, he goes to the party, not expecting Tani to come out and meet anyone. He starts to make excuses, but just then, Tani comes with a tray of food, drinks in her hand, and a smile on her face. Suri is dumbstruck, seeing her dressed up and talking to his friends. He can't take his eyes off her as she talks to his friends. After the party, Tani talks to Suri properly for the first time. She apologizes to him for acting like she did, being locked in her room for so long. She tells him that from now on, she'll be a good wife, but then breaks his heart and tells him she can't love him. Surinder tells her he doesn't know what love is, but to him, the way she came out and kept his promise to his friends and met them even though she didn't want to, is love. From then on, Tani wakes up in the mornings and makes Suri breakfast. She cleans up the attic where he sleeps and cooks his meals. He is happy with the change but wants her to love him. No matter what he does, she doesn't look at him and doesn't pay him any mind. Suri takes her to the movies and enjoys watching her laugh. One day, as she is coming home after doing the groceries, she sees an advertisement for a dance club and brings home a poster for it. At dinner, she asks Suri if she can join the club, because she loves to dance. He agrees and gives her the money to get an admission, just so he can see the smile on her face. He goes to Bobby's salon and tells him he is in love with his wife, but she has told him she can't love him. He asks his friend to turn him into the kind of guy that Tani would fall in love with. Bobby gets to work. He dyes his hair and styles it. He tries to trim his mustache, but the light goes out and he accidentally shaves the entire thing off. He gives Suri new clothes, a tight t-shirt and jeans with sunglasses. Suri turns into the kind of guy in the films that Tani likes, and he is sure that he will win her heart if he goes in front of her like this. He decides to go to her dance club to watch her dance, and when she comes home, he'll surprise her with his new look. He goes to the club and looks around before he spots Tani dancing. He starts to watch her, but he doesn't expect one of the instructors to force him to dance. He is pushed into the crowd and forced to dance, which he does poorly. After the practice, the people are divided into two groups and are given partners. Suri's partner turns out to be Tanny, and he starts to panic and tries to escape, but the same instructor calls Tanny over to help Suri find his partner. Tanny walks over to him and introduces herself, not recognizing her husband with his shaved mustache and colorful outfit. He introduces himself as Raj, not Suri, and starts to flirt with her, and she doesn't really like it, but she says goodbye and goes home without saying anything. Suri goes home late and pretends that he has an ache in his neck, so he doesn't have to look at Tanny in case she recognizes him. He tells Tanny that he'll be late most evenings, because he's taken overtime hours at his office. He says it'll be good for both of them, because she'll be busy with her dance classes as well. The next day, Tanny goes to the dance class and cringes when she sees Raj walk in with his overly cheerful and flirtatious attitude. She warns him not to flirt with her, because she's not that type of girl, and when she gets mad, he agrees. They have their first dance lesson together, but it goes horribly because Raj doesn't know how to dance at all. Tanny is frustrated with him because he doesn't even try to follow the instructor's instructions. That night, it's raining and Tanny is worried about how she'll get home. Raj offers to give her a lift and she reluctantly sits behind him on the bike, but refuses to touch him. He takes her home, talking about letting the rain fall onto her body and touch her soul. He stops looking at the road for a moment, and she gets mad at him and tells him to open his eyes. He drops her off at her house, and when she says goodbye, he tells her to never say goodbye. He tells her to say, "We are traveling the love lane. Down the road we will meet again." She says it, just to get him out of her hair. At home, she opens a window and closes her eyes, and just like Raj said, she lets the drops of the rain touch her soul. Just as she is beginning to enjoy it, Suri comes home, also wet, but he just tells her there was something wrong with the car to get away with it. He tells her to close the window, because the floor will get wet. With dejection, Tanny closes the window. The dancers announce that the dance competition shortlisting will start soon. Raj tells Tanny they'll win for sure, but Tanny is depressed because she knows she won't win with a partner like Raj. When she says this, Raj tells her to choose another partner, because he knows she is the best and can easily win this competition. That night, Suri goes to his friend Bobby's salon and tells him this is the end of his game. He doesn't want to pretend to be Raj anymore. He turned into Raj to make Tanny happy, but it's having the opposite effect, so he doesn't want to upset her anymore. The next day, Tanny goes to the class and waits for Raj to arrive. When he doesn't, she gets his contact and address and shows up at Bobby's garage, which Suri has written down as Raj's. Bobby calls Suri and tells him to show up there quickly. He tells him God is writing his story now, and he can't end it until he decides it has to end. Suri goes to the garage and meets Tanny. She tells him she realized he was a good person at heart when he told her to get a new partner and gave up dancing so she could win. She told him she'll help him if he promises to put in extra practice hours every day. Raj is happy and agrees to do so. They have fun practicing all of their dance moves at the garage, and when they audition for the Dancing Jodi competition, they get a huge round of applause and they get selected in the top 10 couples for the competition. Raj takes Tanny out for food to celebrate and they have an eating competition. They eat until they can't anymore, and Raj wins the competition. The condition was that the winner can make the loser do anything, and the loser can't say no. Tanny goes home and waits for Suri to come home. When he does, she greets him happily and tells him she got selected for the competition. Suri congratulates her and she tells him she cooked biryani for him. He looks devastated because he is just as full as she is, having eaten so much to win the competition. But when she looks worried that he doesn't like it, Suri bucks up and eats the entire plate of rice without complaining, just so she doesn't get upset. He asks her why she's not eating and she introduces Raj to him and tells him they ate a lot of food, so she can't eat dinner. The next day, as Tanny is practicing her dance moves in front of the mirror, she bumps into a girl who starts to yell and curse at her. She starts to yell back, but Raj comes in between them and says he'll talk to her. He turns around to find a big guy who is the girl, Dolly's partner, Tiny. He is so intimidating that Raj quickly backtracks and apologizes to avoid trouble. As they leave the club, Tanny is still venting about Dolly, when Tiny and Dolly pass them on their bike, and Dolly shoves Tanny so she falls off the bike. In a fit of rage, Tanny hands her bag to Raj and sits in the front of the bike, with Raj in the back, and they start to chase Tiny and Dolly. They chase them until they are opposite each other, and then Tanny drives towards them and pushes them so they both fall into a tub of hot water and red dye. Satisfied with her revenge, she tells Tiny to mess with someone his own size. When Raj, shocked and surprised, asks her where she learned to ride a bike, she tells him her neighbors had a bike and she used to sneak off with it at night. That's how she knows how to ride. Raj tells Tanny that it's his birthday the next day and tells her to spend the whole day with him. She hesitates, but when Raj insists and tells her he usually spends the day alone, she agrees. They spend the entire day together and have a lot of fun. At the end of the day, Raj takes her to the top of a hill and gives her a surprise. He uses his contacts at the electric company, and as Tanny watches, the lights turn on and off until they form the words "I love you" far in the distance from where they stand. Tanny is heartbroken at this confession. She turns and asks Raj what this is. He tells her he loves her, but he doesn't expect her to give him anything in return. He just wanted her to know. She tells him a girl can only wish for someone to love her the way he has done. But she tells him she's married. He tells her he already knows, and that the fact that he loves her doesn't change anything. They can still be friends. Tani tells him it changes everything. They can't be just friends anymore. With tears in her eyes, she tells him to leave her alone. Suri goes home that night, and as he eats dinner with her, he notices how sad Tani looks. He purposefully asks her about Raj again, and asks her if he's married. She tells him he isn't. He stays quiet and just gives her a look that leaves Tani confused and scared that she is disappointing him. He asks her if she would like to go to a fair that he got tickets for, and she tells him she'll go. So, the next day, they go to a Japanese fair. They look at the stalls and Tani is a bit quiet, but she seems to be observing all the stalls with Japanese things. Suddenly, she starts to see "I love you" written in lights everywhere she goes. She is frustrated and hurt, thinking about Raj. When she looks up, though, she is shocked to see that Suri is in a ring, ready to battle a sumo wrestler 4 times his size, for 2 return tickets to Japan. Suri looks scared, and even the conductor asks him if he's sure. When Suri says yes, the fight begins. Suri first copies the way the sumo wrestler moves, not knowing anything about the game or how to play. Suri fights with all he has, yelling in the wrestler's ears when he grabs hold of him, and tickling him in the armpits when he lifts Suri above his head. Despite his best efforts, he still gets badly beaten up by the sumo wrestler. When he is laying on the ground, he takes his last chance and grabs hold of the wrestler's leg, pulling with all he has. The wrestler falls down and does not get up again. To the entire crowd's surprise, Suri has won the match and 2 return tickets to Japan. But when he looks at the crowd, Tani stares at him with nothing but disappointment and anger. When they go home, she puts a band-aid on his wounds, but also yells at him for risking his life for something like this. Furious at her husband's stupidity, she storms off to her room. The next day, Suri forgets his lunch, so Tani, feeling bad for how she acted last night, brings him the tiffin to his office. Suri's friends are excited to see her there, but quickly give them some privacy. Tani gives Suri the lunchbox and a small note that says "I am sorry." It makes Suri's entire day, and when Tani shyly walks away, he asks her if she wants to go see a movie. Tani agrees and he takes her to see a new movie that evening. Tani watches in despair, all the while Suri thinks she is happy with him. When the film ends, he turns to look at Tani, but she is gone. He looks for her everywhere, but he can't find her. That is when Bobby calls him and tells him Tani has come to the garage looking for Raj. Suri is heartbroken. He was finally thinking she fell in love with him, but she was in love with Raj all along. He dresses up again and goes to meet her, nonchalantly offering her some tea. She just looks at him with tears in her eyes, and asks him how he can be so happy, knowing he loves her and can of her. Doesn't love hurt him? He tells her love isn't something that hurts. She confesses that he is the one who taught her what love really is. She asks him what she's supposed to do now. Raj tells her that it's quite simple. He sees God in her, so he loves her. If she sees God in someone else, she will love that person. But Tani says her life isn't that simple. She doesn't see God in anyone. This breaks Raj's heart, because he realizes she really doesn't love him. Neither is Suri, nor is Raj. Raj tells her to run away with him. He tells her if she is really so unhappy in her life, she should run away with him. She hugs him and cries, telling him to take her away from here. She can't take the pain anymore. Raj promises her that he'll take her away the night of the competition. Suri goes to Bobby's place and tells him everything. Bobby is sad for him, but he is frustrated that Suri won't tell his wife the truth. When Suri admits his defeat to Raj, his friend tries to convince him that his wife fell in love with him. He and Raj are the same person. When he doesn't listen, Bobby tells him a harsh truth. He tells him that Raj is a guy that expresses his love as much as he can. Suri doesn't have the guts to show her that love. Suri looks at his friend, hurt, and tells him that Suri can turn into Raj. He can dance and he can joke like a joker for Tani, but he will not change himself for her to love him. She has to love the same Suri that works at an electric company and doesn't talk much. Suri's love is slow and gentle, and if she can't understand that, then he will let her go. He will set her free. The next day, Suri takes Tani to a temple. When she asks why they're there, he tells her that it's a big day for her, so he wants to pray for her. As Suri prays for him to come back to him, Tani prays to God, to show her the God that Raj sees in her. When she opens her eyes, she sees Suri walking towards her. Everything becomes clear. With tears in her eyes, she touches his feet for his blessing. Her decision is made. The dance competition starts, and Tani meets Raj on the roof. She tells him she can't run away with him. She tells him she finally sees God in someone now, and that she had forgotten that he held her hand when no one else had. When Suri hears this, he is overjoyed, but he has to hide it because Raj is supposed to be upset at this. She asks him for forgiveness and leaves to get ready for her performance. Their turn is last and their names are announced. The host first announces Tani's name and she comes out onto the stage in her costume. The host then announces Raj's name, but he doesn't come. He announces again and again, and when it looks like he is not going to come at all, Tani tells the host to disqualify them. The host is just about to, when someone shows up on Raj's end that leaves Tani in shock. It is Surinder Sani in his button-up shirt and dress pants, with his glasses and mustache on his face. Tanny is in shock. The conductor announces for the dance to start, and their performance begins. As they dance, Tanny stares into the eyes of her husband, remembering every move she had taught Raj, that he seems to know perfectly. She remembered the night he looked like he didn't want to eat dinner, because he had already eaten so much with her. She remembered the way Raj looked, and the way Suri came home and hid his face because he thought she would recognize him. They dance perfectly, in synchronization and agony, with Tanny knowing that the man she was about to betray, and the man she fell in love with, were one and the same. When the dance ends, the crowd gives them a standing ovation, unlike all the couples that had danced before them. The curtains close and Tanny looks at Suri, with her arms still on his shoulders. She says he lied, and Suri can't look her in the eyes. He stutters as he tries to explain, but what she says next makes him stop in his tracks. She tells Suri he lied to her when he said he didn't know what love was. She tells him how easily he turned every tear of hers into laughter, and her sadness into happiness. She tells him a girl can only dream of a guy loving her this much. Suri hesitantly asks her if she's mad at him. Tanny laughs with tears in her eyes and says no, she isn't mad at him. She hugs him, glad to have a husband who loves her so much. They emerge onto the stage again with the trophy in their hands. They had won the dance competition, and Suri had finally won his wife's heart.